Hi, it's Jonathan, and in this video, I'm going to talk about why you must have a story as a hypnotherapist and how you need to tell that story. So everything starts with a story. Everything starts in making a successful practice with your story. Now, since the dawn of time, people have communicated their messages. They've persuaded people. People have learned through storytelling, and it's no different today. In fact, it's been turned into quite an art form by the film industry. Now, I'm a huge believer, I talk about this a lot, that we always need to be, as therapists, putting ourselves in our customers' or our potential customers' shoes. What is it they need from us? What is it they're looking for from us? And this is at the center of everything I do. And this is a big reason why in my Boost methodology, I begin with B, with brand, getting your brand right. And the first part of getting your brand right, the first thing you need to do as a therapist is get your story right. Be able to tell and communicate your story with your potential clients. And that's the first thing you need to do. And if you've been going a while and you haven't done that, if you've got lots of things in place and you're trading and you're working, and if it's not going as well as you'd like it to go, if you want to improve, I really suggest you do go back and revisit that. And you will probably want, and you'll almost certainly want, to make some adjustments after you've revisited your story that will really boost your performance. So you need to get your story right. Why do you need to get your story right at the outset? First of all, because telling your story helps you show your vulnerability, show your humanity, show that you are approachable, that you are a real person. And people who are coming to you for hypnotherapy, they're coming to you with something so personal. People want to feel that you're human, that you understand them, that you can relate to them. So telling your story, first of all, it kind of makes you a little bit vulnerable, makes you human, makes you approachable. You're not some remote, switched off medical person. You are someone they can trust with their deepest emotions. So you create that openness, you create that awareness that will allow people to open up to you. And secondly, it gives credibility to you with your niches, because your story will have particular issues, maybe a life event or life events that you've been through, and maybe it's particular issues that you've dealt with. So maybe you've been through one of the big life events of divorce, redundancy, loss of purpose, one of those areas. And then you'll have been through a journey of maybe depression, anxiety, low mood, turning to alcohol, whatever it is. By telling your story of where you were, what you've been through, you're making yourself relatable. People will see themselves in you. It doesn't have to be exactly the niche that you're working in, but they'll see, they can relate to the kind of experiences that you have been on, and that draws them towards you. And that's incredibly important at all stages, but especially when you're new, when maybe you don't have lots of testimonials. So maybe people won't be able to get those social proofs of what you've done for other people, but they know that you understand them, that they relate to you. And that emotional bond is going to pull them to you, because you know, as a therapist, emotions always override logic. So people identify with you and your story, you draw people towards you. So telling your story makes you approachable, makes you real, helps people relate to you, and it can give you credibility for your niches as well when you explain the particular area maybe you're working with today. So you need to get your story right, and you have to do it at the outset. You absolutely have to do it at the start. And that's why with Boost Academy, I begin in my branding module, the B part of Boost, by helping you tell your story. Because When you've got your story right, everything else flows from that. When you've got your story right, you are able to identify easily who your ideal client is, what that person looks, feels like, thinks like. You're able to identify that person really clearly. And then when you know who your ideal client is relating to your story, you can work out your branding. Your branding will flow from that. It's going to appeal to that ideal audience. And when you've got your branding right, you can develop offers that meet the needs, that provide value to that audience. So everything flows from getting your story right at the outset. And if you haven't got a story in place, but you are working, I would suggest you revisit your story and make adjustments to the branding, the offerings, everything else that you've got in place. Because when that whole thing flows, you're going to be more congruent. Clients are going to identify with you better. You're going to give people the confidence that they need to buy from you because they know you, they trust you, and hopefully they like you a little bit as well. So you've absolutely got to get that right. So that's why you need to get your story right. But how do you tell your story? So I use something in Boost Academy that I call the Hollywood film formula. And this is a formula based upon the model that Hollywood and other studios use to make movies. And it works. They use this formula because it's incredibly engaging and successful. And basically it has 3 stages, 3 scenes, if you like, that you need to go through in telling your story. So the first part of this, scene 1, is about where were you at in your life? What was happening? Maybe things are rolling along normally, day to day. And then what happens? What's the event that changes your life? Maybe it's the divorce, the redundancy, the loss of purpose. One of those things is likely to be maybe a mixture of those things, but what's the thing that happens that knocks you off course? That is your scene 1. Your second scene then moves into the things you do to try and move on from that. The journey you go on to try and move on from that. And that scene ends with a false dawn. You think you found a solution, but it's a false dawn. So for example, maybe if you've had a relationship breakup, you move on, you enter into another relationship, you find someone who you think is perfect, and it turns out they're not quite so perfect, and the whole thing falls apart, and you're back to square 1. So that's a false dawn. So you have that false dawn at the end of scene 2. And then you move into scene 3, which is where you have an epiphany. The epiphany where you find the answer. You find the answer that you're looking for. What is it you really wanted? So maybe in a different scenario here, this is you decided that you needed to change the kind of work you did. You needed to change your lifestyle in some way. You had that epiphany. You needed to do work that was meaningful. And the result of that is where you are today. So for me, it would be my epiphany was that my work had been making me ill. Therefore, I needed to do something different. And then I came across the person who showed me what made me better, and that made me realize that was what I wanted to do myself. Hence, I became a therapist. Hence, I became a coach, helping people to solve their issues. So that is the 3-scene, the Hollywood film formula, given to you in an overview of a couple of minutes. I teach that in lots of detail on my Boost Academy, tell you how to tell that story in writing, how to tell that story in a video, how to tell that story in front of a live audience. And it's incredibly powerful, incredibly compelling. It'll draw people towards you. So I hope you've enjoyed this story. I hope you take away that everything starts with a story. Your story, you have a story, it's unique to you. You need to tell that. You need to tell it in the right way, and that will make a huge difference in transforming your practice, setting out everything else to flow properly following that. So hope you've enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon in the next one.